FreshBooks is the #1 cloud accounting software, custom built for the way that you want to work. For your unrestricted free 30-day trial, go to freshbooks.com/LinusCES. And speaking of custom built for the way you want to work, we're back at Silverstone checking out the top 5 crazy things that we found at their booth that are actually really useful. And we're going to start off with the MS09 and the MS09 Mini. These are M.2 SATA enclosures, but not just that. They also have a USB 3.1 Type A connector on the end. So to make it yourself, you just remove the 4 screws on the back that's on the side with the switch on it for your USB Type A connector. Open it up, flip it over, and then inside the standard MS09, you can fit a 2242, a 2260, or a 2280 sized M.2 SATA drive. And in the smaller MS09 Mini, you can fit a 2242. Then just close it back up and you have your own awesome, super fast 10 gigabit per second flash drive that you can then convert later on to be a system drive or whatever else you want. Moving on, we've got probably my favorite thing here, and it's the 3rd time that's been released, and it's still probably my favorite thing here, just because it's so kind of hilariously awesome. And that's their remote starter kit for your PC. This time it has a speaker mounted to it, so when you press the power button or reset button from across the room, you can actually hear that your computer turned on. It doesn't seem like immediately you might need that functionality, but when you can't see the computer necessarily, it's actually pretty freaking cool. When you plug it into your motherboard for the power switch and reset switch headers, it also has break-offs, I don't know necessarily what to call them, pass-throughs, that you can plug your standard power button and reset button on your case into, so you don't lose any of that functionality either. I think this is actually pretty damn cool, and it plugs in through the PCIe 1X slot on your motherboard. Next up, we've just got an expansion card that you can mount an NVMe M.2 SSD into, which is really cool because it's so small. If you notice, there's no even mounting bracket to go on the outside of the case. It's also really short. If you have a tiny little build that you need to make, and you do have an available 16X slot, you can drop this in here, get another drive, don't have to worry about clearance on top of it, and don't have to worry about mounting it on the back. Pretty cool. Then we have their TP-02 M2 cooling kit for M.2 SSDs. I know a lot of this stuff is M.2 based. This I'm mainly calling out just because it's kind of funny. They added an actual physical heatsink into the box because people were too sketched out with their previous version that actually worked better, but don't worry, that's all previous stuff is still included in here. If you've been following the news on M.2 cooling stuff, these heat sinks that go on the top of them don't accomplish a ton, but people love them because they look like they'll accomplish a ton. It still has the thermal pad, which can thermally conduct from the M.2 drive's controller mainly down into a main board or whatever it's actually mounted on, which is actually far more effective. So you've got the peace of mind of the piece of metal that goes on top, and you've got the effectiveness of the thermal pad that goes on the bottom. And then, just in case your love for M.2 just absolutely cannot be satiated, we have another way to mount them, all the way from 2242 to 22110, those really long M.2 drives. This will convert them to SATA. So you can have 4 SATA plugs, only takes 1 SATA power, which is actually pretty cool as well. And you can have way more M.2 in your system, just in case you've populated all the M.2 on your board and you've populated all the PCIe lanes you can possibly plug M.2 into, and you've done everything else and you still want more drives. You can have 4 of them mounted into a 3.5-inch drive bay. And speaking of M.2 and other things that we just can't get enough of, sponsor spots. Thank you to FreshBooks for sponsoring this video. You can use their easy tools to create invoices in less than 30 seconds. You can even view if people have seen your invoices or not, so you can check in with them and make sure that they're actually going to pay you, which is a pretty important process of running a business. You can focus on things like doing your job and pushing forward in your company instead of just doing paperwork, which can be frustrating and annoying. And speaking of less paperwork, you can also accept credit cards through their online platform, which is helpful as well. If you want to check it out for your free unrestricted 30-day trial, go to freshbooks.com/LinusCES. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike the video, dislike it. Other than that, stay subscribed. We'll see all the rest of our CS 2018 content and everything beyond that as well. See you next time.